Hello, everyone. I'm Javier, CEO of Jaguar Games, an international play alliance, coming back to you with Latino Game Changers. Today, we have fascinating guests coming from all the other side of the world. So if you would like to introduce yourself, who are you and which company do you represent?
Definitely. So, first of all, Javier, thank you very much for having me here in the show. It's really an honor to be here, and it's an honor to meet you, and hopefully we present a very good episode. So, my name is Sultan Alsaad. I'm the founder and CEO of Tuwaiq Esports, a Saudi Arabian-based company that is expanding to the let's call it the Latino market.
And yourself, Nestor?
Yes, okay. I'm Nestor Elizondo, and I'm the general manager for Tuwaiq. And well, we're very glad to have the opportunity to be here in this episode and talk a little bit about all the opportunities that we are facing both in the MENA region and now with this expansion that we're doing slowly but surely into the Latin American market.
Exactly. So usually when I tell my colleagues about, fortunately, the MENA region, it is totally okay, but they don't even know the term, what this is. So if you'd like to share with us, what is the MENA region? Why is this market? Why do you call it this way?
Okay. Well, so the MENA region, what essentially means is Middle Eastern and North African region, which composes countries that go from Egypt to Saudi Arabia, Oman, Bahrain, the UAE, Qatar, etc. Okay, so it compromises a whole region, and it's a little bit different from, for example, the Asian region. We are a little bit more to the west of that side, and but that is the whole MENA region, right? And that's why we call it. It's usually known as the Middle East, but it also has a part of the African continent.
Yeah. And I believe that it is very useful to understand how different markets have their different dynamics. So do you think that that's part of the reason that instead of just talking about the Saudi Arabia market or the Middle East market, in the industry, we talk about the MENA region? Is there like a particular reason that this market has common forces or common challenges ahead?
Sure. So one of the good things about this market is that, as Nisar said, since it's the Middle East and North Africa, it goes from Morocco to Qatar, Bahrain, UAE, Saudi Arabia. We all speak one language, which is Arabic.
Exactly.
So yeah, so that's and we all share the same culture. Our culture is not that different, by the way. Maybe our food is, but our culture isn't. So yeah. So it makes it very easy for any company to really target that market. The demographics, it's very small demographics when it comes to age demographics. For example, Saudi Arabia, 70% of the population are below 30 years old, which makes it one of the youngest countries in the world. Yeah. You have Qatar, for example. People ages ranging from 10 to 24 years old represents more than 700,000 people in Qatar, a country which is made up of around 2.3 million people over there. So it's a very young population right now living in the Middle East, and I think the total population all around it's expanding more than 200 million, if I'm not wrong. And the region is growing, it's growing. Yeah, is there challenges? Definitely. There are so many challenges, especially, when you organize esports events, for example. You have the North African market and the Levant market, which is, Jordan, Palestine, Syria, Lebanon. They all connect to the European servers, whereas Iraq and the GCC countries, we are connected to either servers in Saudi Arabia or in Kuwait or in UAE or in Bahrain. Which makes it really a difficult job to be able to play against North African teams and for North African teams to play against us. So you have to make it more of a LAN event rather than online events.
Of course.
Second thing, it's the income per capita. it's higher, much higher in GCC than in any other Arabic country. You have in Saudi Arabia, the annual revenue per user is up to $500 per year in spending into games.
Wow.
Where you have the global average is $63. Probably the closest country to us is the US, where it's $246 or something like that. Egypt has the highest player rate, but has one of the lowest when it comes to let's say income. Same thing with other maybe North African countries as well. Same thing with Levant countries. We've seen Egypt and Lebanon. So many countries are facing economic issues, which affecting the household income and affecting the gaming industry also over there. Nevertheless, they're producing amazing players. Some of the best players in the world are from there. And so many games.
I can totally imagine.
Yeah, exactly.
And in this sense, Sultan, I really want to highlight something that you mentioned, because fortunately, now that our audience is discovering the MENA region, the ecosystem, your company, there are some similarities that on occasion my colleagues, game industry people, do not necessarily see as obvious. For example, like you mentioned, how you share a common language and a common culture. So different markets, if we decide to leverage this, that can become a strength. It is very similar. I'm not sure what you think, Nestor, to the Latino market. So usually, many of my colleagues, they prefer to study the Mexican market, the Panama market, the Colombian market, and you can absolutely do that. And like you were saying, Sultan, every market will have their specifics and their challenges. But if we have this broader view, on occasion we discovered that, well, you can make an event that spans from the US Latinos all the way to Spain, all the way to Argentina, the same content. And that is something that is very interesting for me about the MENA region, that, like you mentioned, so many of your players are so good that we hear about them. They reach international audiences. So in this sense, I would really like to hear, beyond going deeper into esports and the intricacies of the industry, what got you specifically to enter the game industry?
Okay, so obviously
personal motivations.
As everyone else, I was a gamer since I was a young kid. Annoying my parents to buy me games whenever they are released. But let's say when I grew up, obviously I used to shortcut the story. I used to study in the UK. I graduated from there, and during my time over there, I discovered the esports industry and started going more in depth into the gaming and esports industry in general, and starting knowing that this industry actually exists. I didn't know that before, because no one spoke about it really, and only the industry became, let's say, had more of a government focus when the Saudi Esports Federation was launched in 2017, which gave them the power to let the media put focus on this emerging industry in Saudi and in the region. And whenever a true businessman, whenever there is an opportunity to get money, just go there and get it. So this is a new industry. With the young population, and with population, we have 67% of the Saudi population are gamers. You have 25% they play more than once a week, and you have 24% playing more than once a month.
Wow.
And you have some people who are playing once a year or twice a year, whenever they have the time to do so. So all of that calculated in us actually joining opening Tuwaiq and joining this industry.
I can imagine. And it is great that you had the experience with the UK, which is one of the, let's say, more mature markets, both in terms of regular games, but specifically in esports. So great that you have that experience.
Yeah.
And in your case, Nestor, what got you into games? What's your motivation?
Actually, I've been I didn't start out in the esports industry. I started out in the video game industry. Okay, and I started working directly here in Mexico. with Nintendo in Mexico. I got on my hands the launch of the Wii system back in the day, the very first Wii, the DS Lite, et cetera. And then I worked within the video game industry for a while. And well, the esports industry in Mexico wasn't that big. It was actually quite amateur. And you can only find some amateur tournaments happening in some universities and some colleges and something like that, but nothing that was really well organized and anything. So a colleague of mine, which I met whilst working in Nintendo, started talking about the esports industry and what we could do within the esports industry in Mexico. Now, because the industry was so young and was just starting, we struggled a lot. Okay, we struggled a lot in order to make it a reality. Now we've seen and we saw that the explosion of the esports industry, not only in Asia. Asia, obviously, it's like the great grandparents of esports.
Yeah, the birth of it.
Yeah, the birth of it, and has been around for many years. Right. Then comes Europe and probably a little bit of North America, specifically the U.S. Right. But Mexico and all LATAM and other countries, for example, in Africa, the Middle East, etc. We were the last ones to join the ride. Right. So the esports industry has been growing. Has been growing a lot since I started out here in Mexico. After working a while in Mexico, I started working with other companies based out of Mexico, based in the US, based in Australia, based in the UK. And a few years ago, I landed with my friend here, Sultan, and we started working and doing things together, on and off kind of things, until we started creating and we started doing a lot of different things within the esports industry, within the MENA region, and now starting to expand. Right, so it comes from a wide range of experience, both in the video game industry, then in the esports industry, and now fixing and focusing a lot on what we're doing in Tuwaiq, and focusing all our efforts in making Tuwaiq be known not only in the MENA region, but also around the world.
I can imagine. So in this sense, Sultan, you have great company, because as Nestor can tell us, Nintendo has been one of the most beloved companies, naturally internationally, but I believe that specifically with Mexico, they really paved the way for so many other companies before, let's say, games were as mainstream as they have been here. So Nestor has seen the evolution, how the industry has been maturing. One of the crazy tales that I got to hear some years ago was that before, tragically, this is in the 90s. I'm a 90s kid, obviously. So when the game industry was so young here in Mexico and in Latin America, so many games were sold here by bootlegging. And it was Nintendo who realized, oh my God, why do we have so many sales of our consoles, of our games in San Diego, in California? So it was because some entrepreneurs were taking some games and they were just like flying to Mexico, and then they will resell them. So that has been
I actually know the person who started that. Oh, by the way.
Oh, how interesting. How interesting. Yeah. So it's been impressive how, let's say, the demand has always been latent here in the Latino market, even before sometimes the proper regulation, the companies actually follow, fortunately, the consumer demand. It is one of the great problems, I believe, with the Latino market, that the demand is there. And after that, everything else can fall into place. So based on this, I'd love to hear now, what's the relationship between your company, Tuwaiq, between the global esports industry, fortunately, and the MENA region, this MENA market?
Okay, definitely. So, as Nestor explained, Tuwaiq Esports, we really want to connect globally with, the global industry, and everything that we're doing right now, expanding to Mexico and soon, expanding to Europe, Asia Pacific, and to other regions as well. it's all about getting us there. You know, one of the key pillars of the 2030 vision in Saudi Arabia is to, let's say, instead of importing, we start exporting our services, our products internationally, you know. And
Wow.
gaming and esport is one of those exports,
Yeah.
you know.
Wow.
Whether it's video games, whether it's services, whether it's merchandise, you know, peripherals, equipment, whatever it is, we really want to do that. And you know, getting our name over there, sending the message that, you know, Saudis, we're not what, you know, the media says about us. We're totally different, you know. You know, we're people that have passion in football. We're people who have passion in video games. We're people who have passion in arts and science and literally everything, you know.
Yeah.
And we're people who are open to the world, you know. Everyone is welcome in Saudi, and we know for a fact we're welcome everywhere as well, you know. So that's definitely one of the things that got us and Tuwaiq Esports that wanted us to connect to the global audience. And soon, you know, it's a step by step. You know, I'd say the gaming industry maybe it's very old. It is very old, and the esports industry, it is very old, but it's still, you know, people haven't discovered the right path and doing it right, you
Absolutely.
know, not yet.
We're
Maybe
figuring it out.
we'll be, yeah, maybe we'll be the ones who does that. Maybe someone else will be, but eventually, it's just all about sustainability, having a sustainable business, having a
Yeah.
global business. You know, eventually, we want to go IPO. We want. We didn't open it. We didn't open Tuwaiq, you know, for charity purposes. We open it because we want to gain money. You know, we want.
Wow.
To build a business, you know, and that's for a fact, you know.
Yeah.
So yes, definitely, we have so many activities that we're doing. You know, GirlGamer in Mexico is one of them. We have right now the Tuwaiq Challenge Series, which is our online tournament that season 1 has concluded in the MENA region. More than 4,000 players participated in a tournament that was spanning 2 months. And very soon we'll announce so many things that, you know, we'll do it in Mexico, we'll do it in Saudi, we'll do it in Europe, we'll do it in Asia Pacific, and step by step until people see, you know, our name everywhere.
Yeah, so many great points mentioned here because on occasion, and even in not only in Mexico but Americas, we don't think about games as fortunately a pillar in our economy. We still hear in the news, for example, that games are bad influence for our children, etc. In the U.S., fortunately not so much in Mexico, but definitely in the U.S. While I am hearing that fortunately you're considering it a way to diversify your economy. So that is definitely a step forward in how you see the industry, in how you think you can build inside this potential. So in addition to that, fortunately, you also see games as a way for people to get to know you, the Arab culture, the MENA region, because Nestor and I believe that we have constantly heard as well stereotypes around Latinos, around Mexicans, that it is usually with entertainment that there can be two ways. Either tragically, these stereotypes are perpetuated, or it's fortunately a way to challenge them, for people to meet, like we're doing right now, the industry leaders who are fortunately building these new connections, but also the content. The content, I believe, is what really changes the points of views of players. We have seen this, for example, with Japan or with South Korea, that fortunately people may not visit yet those countries, but they look very favorably to those cultures, and they want to learn more about that. In this sense, I have the impression that Latinos relate a lot about how cultures can be better represented when we hear straight from the players, straight from the companies, because that's what we want ourselves with our culture and our companies.
Well,
So go
I
ahead,
do.
Nestor.
Yeah, yes. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
Please, please.
I completely agree with you in the sense that the vision of both our regions, both the Latin American market and the MENA market on the outside, are sometimes, not sometimes, usually are very different from what the reality is actually is, right? One of the things is what it's always shown in series, in the movies, et cetera, which portray a reality that it's, even though it exists, but it's not the majority of it, right? And it's not the actual way the cultures are. And there's a lot of prejudice happening in that portrayal of our cultures. So and one of the things that and something really important that Sultan said is okay, the Saudis are really passionate about everything. They're very warm people. They're very welcoming. They're always looking forward to innovate in technology and in entertainment and science and arts, et cetera, right? But unfortunately, that vision is not, it's not shown outside the region, right? Now it is our job to actually show that, right? And that is what not only the government, but also private companies as ourselves and Tuwaiq want to show the world what the people really is about, right? And with that expansion and make people know that hey, we share the same passions, we share the same vision, we share the same gaming enthusiasm that we have everywhere, right? And not only by creating events, but also creating content and creating different opportunities to expand the market, right? One of the things that Sultan mentioned is okay. Yeah, the industry has been around for quite a while. Probably one or two companies have nailed the nail quite very well, but not everyone. There has been a lot of unsuccessful companies and changes, and that is something natural, right? That you have to switch your vision, you have to move around and see what actually starts working with you. But one of the things that we have to make everyone understand is the esports industry is not, it's not only about kids playing video games, right? It's about people creating content. It's about people creating, developing games, creating special merchandise, whatever. There's a lot of opportunities within the esports industry, and not only to play video games, not only to be a coach or be a professional player. Yes, those are options, right? But there's much more around it that you can do other than that.
In this sense, it is very useful, Nestor, to talk with experts such as yourselves, because when I was selected as currently the director of the International Play Alliance, the organization would say, right now, maybe there are challenges with the US and China decoupling their economies. For anyone working right now in Huawei, they're in big trouble, for example, or in AI or in other areas. But at the same time, I always invite people to think about other potential allies, about how fortunate we are about the Latino market, which fortunately is up for grabs. We can find synergy with so many other players that are not the usual. So in this sense, for example, esports. I believe that with the Latino market, it's fortunately something very young. Like you were saying, Nestor, we have so much to build, but that's why it makes sense to hear specifically from you, the experts who are building this, and also to learn from maybe what has worked and what has failed respectively in other markets, so that we only apply what makes sense based on what players here specifically are looking for. So in this sense, which are the, let's say, bigger challenges that you're seeing in esports that Tuwaiq is interested in tackling?
Okay. One of the biggest challenges that we face, not only in Latin America, but also in the MENA region, and because this challenge doesn't happen, for example, in Asia, and this challenge doesn't happen or in a much lower sense in Europe and in the US. But the challenge that we're facing is changing and switching the vision from, for example, companies that are going to be the ones that are going to be supporting the esports industry in, for example, in sponsorship deals, in in support to these activities. And why is that? Because companies are still looking at esports as, yeah, there are a bunch of kids only playing video games. They don't look at it as a market, and a market which has a lot of disposable income in order to be spending anywhere else, right? And whenever we start showing them the numbers, right, like, hey, this is an event that it's being done, this is an online tournament that gathered X amount of people, and we have X amount of viewership on our streams, et cetera, that's when they start looking at esports in a different way, right? Because you can talk to a very specific demographic area and target, right, which can be really productive. Now,
absolutely.
Unfortunately, in Mexico, in Mexico and in Latam, and what happens also in the MENA region is that whenever, for example, you approach a company and you tell them, hey, you should advertise with your brand with my stream, or in my stream, in my broadcast, etc. Have this type of reach, etc. They look to more traditional ways of communication. They look for television ads. Sure. They look for radio ads, and social media. Now that social media is up for grabs. I come from a marketing background, and I remember when social media was only 2% of the marketing budget for companies. Now these days, that budget has increased much more than that 2% allocated towards social media. Now that is the same thing that is happening with esports, right? Esports, as today, it's still a really small portion of that budget, right?
Yeah.
And but it's slowly but steadily increasing in that sense, and it's our job to actually start promoting that. Now, one of the good things that I see is that now the decision makers and the decision levels within the companies are getting younger, right? And these positions and these decision making positions have a little bit more knowledge about what the esports industry is, right?
Yeah.
We still know a lot of people that when you tell them, hey, what do you work for, or what do you do for a living, and you tell them, I work in esports, and what is that, right? It's like it always happens, right?
I can imagine.
And you have to explain a little bit, and I'm sure that everyone in the industry has already a speech built around it on how they explain what esports is and what do you do, et cetera, right? So, but that is starting to become a little bit less common. But yeah, that is one of the biggest challenges that we have, right? Another challenge that I see, and another challenge that is actually everywhere in the world, and this challenge is not only for the Latin American market or the MENA region. This is completely for the whole world. Is one of the other challenges is educating parents about what esports is and the opportunities that their kids may want to have in it. Because whenever a kid goes to their parents and tells them, hey, I want to work in the esports industry, the first thing that the parents are going to be saying is like, oh, okay, no, you're not going to be playing video games for the rest of your life, you know? It's like that is like really this is something that we really need to educate parents. And I can tell you as a parent myself, right, that okay, we know the opportunities, that there's a lot of different opportunities within the esports industry that can be, it is a job, it is a way to earn your keep without any problem. And there's a lot of different paths that you can take within the industry, right? And that is a challenge that we need to address in order for future generations to start inquiring and wanting to get into the esports industry and start specializing themselves into the industry. What happens, and this is one thing that has become history, is that earlier companies within the esports industry were born by gamers and
Sure.
and video gamers, and that's what they knew how to they knew what to do and how to do it, right? But
Yeah.
probably they were lacking that education and that expertise in
The
other
business side.
senses, exactly, the business side, or the managing side, or the event or
Yeah.
organization, or finance, marketing, on et cetera, et cetera,
So
et cetera,
many.
right?
Yeah.
There's so many things, right? And this is what it brought a lot of companies to not be successful because of that lack, right? Now
Makes sense.
it is part of Tuwaiq's vision, right, to educate these future generations,
Mm.
not only in not only giving them events. Okay, yes, we do create events, we have events, and we love making events, and we love having tournaments, and having this audience captive, and playing, and creating content, etc. But it's also our vision to educate these kids, and hand by hand to the
Yeah.
actual parents, right, on behalf of that.
Fascinating, Nestor. So in this sense, I hear that it is twofold. The challenges are twofold. That is, on one hand, naturally, it's about the business. You have to convince the potential sponsors. You have to do so much work around that, but also a cultural challenge. And therefore, the solution must take into account both of these. That's why I really like the, let's say, dynamics of what Sultan was saying about how the MENA region is very unified in terms of culture, because that means that it can be as well a strength, a resource in order to better have, let's say, a good esports player, someone who the audience, the consumer admires, and who they see how fortunately he's making his way, he's building a career thanks to dedicating the hours. That can be something that fortunately can be admired by people of so many other countries. And in this sense, with the Latinos, I believe that there's a similar opportunity that naturally you are building, you are pioneers into this, because there are so many good players here. But as Nestor is saying, parents right now are your, let's say, not necessarily your supporters or your fans. They're the skeptics. Yeah.
Skeptics, exactly.
Yeah. But as soon as we have a similar, let's say, dynamic of, fortunately, I hope, good esports player who makes it global, who becomes a global champion, and who lives thanks to his very healthy dedication to the sport, who fortunately, like with any sport, it is very interesting. There's a great book, Homo Ludens, by Huizinga. He was the very first scientist who studied, and not specifically video games, but games in general. And he mentions that games precede humanity. So before there were humans, there were already games. And we can see that with lions, how they play, dogs play by competing a bit between them. They have mock fights. So games have always been there as a way to learn, so that eventually when you are an actual lion who has to fight another one, there you are ready, you are prepared. So very similarly, all kinds of games, and specifically esports, they can be great ways to learn leadership, to learn responsibility, to learn some very specific skill sets that in other ways, naturally you can also learn them, but we haven't been potentially, we haven't highlighted enough about those positive skills that are necessary in order to make it as a team, or as an esports company, as a professional player. And we're fortunately right now in that very magical moment of the pioneers. If fortunately the right cross promotion, if the right alliances are built, because it is impossible, I believe, esports as an industry for any one player to solve it. It is quite a multi-headed hydra.
Absolutely, yeah. I completely agree, and yes, definitely, every single one of us has to put something onto the table to contribute to this change, right? And we know that's not going to happen overnight. It's something
Yeah.
that will happen throughout some years.
Yeah.
in Asia, it took a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
It took a while, but we can take a lot of learning lessons from the Asians in the industry and what they've done and how they've progressed until where they are right now. Right.
Yeah,
Yes, I absolutely agree that this is something that everybody has to do something around it. We as Tuwaiq are building up on that onto that vision and collaborating in the ways we feel possible
yeah,
and up to our extent, right, where we can collaborate and create the landscape of esports within the culture, within the parents, within the industry, within absolutely everything, and starting to expand that vision, right?
yeah. In this sense, I wonder, since fortunately Tuwaiq comes from the MENA region, comes from this vision of exporting, fortunately, what Saudi Arabia can do in terms of games. Uh, what is interesting for you at this moment? Is it the Latin American market? Is it Mexico specifically? What is what is interesting for you at this moment in our area?
Well, the market, the market obviously is with it's what it looks like really interesting, and believe it or not, our cultures are very similar within each other. We have similar values, family values, and how we behave
Mhm.
within our own culture, right? Now,
Interesting.
the market in both in Mexico and Latin America is it's a really big market, and it's something that you mentioned a little while ago is the market here is still up for grabs. There's still a lot of
Exactly.
pie to be divided, and
Yeah.
we know that we're not going to be the only players here, and we're not going to be the only company that are going to be doing it. But yeah, we want to go hand in hand and be a company that goes and gives the people what they want. Right? It's
Mm.
not only by creating things that don't make sense to the audience, that don't make sense to the market, right?
Yeah.
But delivering what the actual market is asking: high quality events, high quality tournaments, et cetera, et cetera. You name it, high quality content, right? And exposure to that, right? So that is what makes interesting the Latin American market, and yes, absolutely. The Latin American market has a lot of common things besides the language, right? Which is the most obvious one. But it has a lot of similarities. Obviously, you can divide country by country with their own cultural perks, right? But in general, we can see it as a homogenic entity
Yeah.
called Latam, right?
Yeah.
In
And
that
definitely
sense.
consumers think in those terms. I mean,
Yes.
even fortunately, they will look for the best possible experience, even if the language on occasion doesn't align. So
Yeah.
here in Latin America, you will have lots of fans who, if the anime or if the game comes in another language, well, they will learn Japanese. My generation will learn English by playing games. My
Mhm.
entire English comes from that. But those dynamics are changing right now. So, for example, now games come in Spanish, for
Yeah.
example. So, just like that, I have the impression that there are younger audiences who are somewhat nervous. And this is not only about games, this is like globally. Right now, the
Mhm.
world is a bit nervous. And I always invite that, just like movies have done for many generations, games, if we decide to be that way, we can share some of the messages that fortunately younger audiences are looking to hear. That, for example, if you play Age of Empires, Smash, so many games, you can do quite a career by leveraging the fortunately that Latinos we are worthwhile in our case. Sometimes I don't like, and I invite people to change our perspective, that players will say, "Oh, but I'm not Korean, so I cannot play StarCraft in this degree of competitiveness." And I say, "No, no, no, no. We're all equal when it's especially about games. Don't start with low self-esteem. And I have the impression like that, like you're saying, Nestor, when the events fortunately celebrates the players in that way with high quality, and there's also a cultural, the right message there. It's not, let's say, just copy pasting how events are done elsewhere, because that has happened in Mexico. Sometimes, let's
Yeah.
say, fortunately, in the US, there's a new rap song and there's this video with that artist. Well, some brands will do the same event here in Mexico City, and well, it won't resound naturally with these audiences. So in this sense, I hear fortunately that you're interested in the market, that you understand that there's this need of also relevant cultural messages. I was very interested when I first heard about you because of GirlGamer, the global event. So in this sense, I'd love to hear from you. What is this event, and also what are you doing with it in our region?
Okay. So then you wanna go ahead, or let me?
No. You go ahead.
Okay. Okay. So the Girl Gamer Festival in the region, and I can tell you one thing. Okay, we are the partners for the Girl Gamer organization. Grow Up Esports is the owner of um, of the Girl Gamer Festival. The Girl Gamer Festival has been around the globe for many years. It started around 2017 or 2016 in a small event that was held in Portugal and then in Macau, and it has grown since then. Okay,
Yeah.
since then it has been growing around the world, and there has been events happening in Africa, in Asia, in Australia, in Europe, one in Brazil, in the US, but nothing actually happening in Latin America. Right now, we as Tuwaiq, we partnered with Grow Up Esports to bring the Girl Gamer Festival to Mexico City. Now,
Wow.
the festival itself is it's going to be in Mexico City, but the Latin America, or the festival is a competition. At least what this is happening is there's smaller regional events, or also smaller regional festivals happening around the world, from girls all around the world competing to win a ticket for the grand final that is going to be held in Egypt Egypt or Qatar. We still don't know. On February of next year. Okay. So, but for example, here the festival is going to be 16 and 17 of December in Mexico City directly. Okay.
Very
But
soon.
we are, yeah, very soon, very soon. But we are going to be holding a lot of online tournaments for Latin American North, which compromises from Peru, Colombia, Venezuela, all the Guyanas, the full Caribbean islands, and all Central America and Mexico. So girls are going to be competing during those online events, and they are going to win a ticket to travel here to Mexico for the finals, or for the regional finals in Mexico, in Mexico City. Right now, Girl Gamer Festival is obviously an event that is completely focused towards girl gaming, right?
Yeah.
In this sense, to give them a safe space without the toxicity. Unfortunately, the space for women out there, even though there's a lot of efforts going to avoid toxicity, to avoid verbal violence against them while they're playing, it still exists, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, for example, in the big tournaments, yes, they are open to accept girls, right, and accept women, teams of women to compete in them. But unfortunately, that there's not enough space, and there's a lot of male teams that are how do you say, like getting control over those events, and the majority of the participants on those events are male teams, right? So the event is specifically tailored towards women, and to have the inclusivity of women, and having women participating in the tournament, and only women participating in the tournament. And during the festival, we also have panels and have talks talking about all these different type of topics that surround girl gaming as a whole, right? And all the challenges for women in order to compete and make everything like that. So that is GirlGamer Festival in Mexico City. What it is the conclusion of the regional tournament. Those are the finals, and we are going to be using 2 games, and the girls will be competing in 2 different games, which are League of Legends and CS:GO. So one team from each game will be the champion from the region and will go to participate in the grand final next February. So that's
exciting.
GirlGamer. Yeah.
So like you're saying, Nestor, I believe that number one, this is not only an obstacle that esports has, toxicity around playing, and it is very strategic to, let's say, focusing, narrowing it down in this case to this is an esports tournament where only in this case games can participate. So that way you can actually promote a healthier environment, and gradually this can also happen outside of your event. At the same time, I believe that we have a particular opportunity in the case of Mexico, because naturally we suffer this challenge as well. If we go to Japan, to South Korea, it is so normal that women enjoy games. And in our particular case in Mexico, even more so than other Latin American countries, it is tragically something that still is kind of hidden, that you cannot readily, easily say, I'm a woman and I enjoy games, because we still don't have the maturity in players here in Mexico of treating women respectfully, in not getting harassed online. So this is something that I believe we need to do, to recognize we are doing this because this issue exists. And after that, this is one way in order to see the healthy environment where fortunately any player who is interested in this can participate. Now, I have to ask the tough questions as well. So
go ahead.
Does this mean that men cannot participate, or what does this mean for everyone who is not a woman?
Okay, in the tournaments, yes, it's only open towards female teams. Okay, no males, no guys can participate in the tournaments. In the event, it's open to everyone. It's family friendly. You can go with your kids. Everyone can go to the event without any problem. Be part of the audience and be part of and be part of the community. The tournament itself, yes, it is only for women and only women can participate in it, and it's completely closed. If you want to go and watch your stream, being a man, be my guest and do it without a problem. Right? Yes, this is open for everyone to go to the event.
Yeah. No, and it makes sense, absolutely, Nestor. Now, at the same time, we have mentioned that this event is coming, and there are still challenges in the global esports industry, and particularly in Mexico. So, are there, let's say, factors that you have in mind that usually, let's say, this obstacle tends to happen in esports events, and probably this is one way that we're trying to solve it in this coming event in Mexico? Because fortunately, I always invite making use of the fact that Latinos as players, as consumers, I have the impression, like Sultan was saying, we are similar to the MENA region in the sense that we're more open. We are more open to new experiences, to new events. So I really want people to hear straight from you, the experts actually participating in this event, about what do you think is special about this particular event in this particular market with Mexico? Which synergies can happen here?
Well, for starters, there has never been a girl-focused event held within the region. That is one of the very top things to mention.
So specifically with esports, right?
Yeah, specifically with esports, yes. Yeah, there has been a lot of different tournaments in which girls can participate in it, etc. But there has never been something that specifically tailored towards women, right? So that is one of the things that is going to that is going to revolutionize the industry, at least in Mexico and throughout Latin America. Now, what we are obviously we are creating a high quality event and a high quality content through it, because it's not only about the event but also the content creation that is going to be happening around the event. And we have a lot of female content creators that are absolutely amazing, right? And we are partnering with them in the sense that, hey, we want to support you, we want to be there for you, whatever you need, let's go ahead and do it, right? And bring this industry on a much wider scale. Here in Mexico, lately there's been a lot of activity throughout esports, and you can see some activity here and there in Mexico. You can see some tournaments, for example, happening in Colombia. You can see some tournaments happening in Costa Rica. You can see some tournaments happening in Argentina, Brazil, etc., right? You can still see that, but there still hasn't been something that is quite focused. Here in Mexico, you can see a bit more activity within the sports industry, but it's not something that happens as usual, for example, as in the US, where you can find 2 or 3 esports event related events throughout the month, throughout the country, right? We are still not there. So this is the first year we're going to be doing it. It's not going to not only going to be this year. This is a multi-year kind of thing that we will be doing it year after year and bringing people to the event.
Fascinating, Nestor. So we have to highlight that fortunately you're the pioneers in making an event exclusive for women and esports here in Mexico, pioneering the way with this. Because naturally there are lots of adjacent events like women in tech, women in game development, but it's true, I hadn't heard about specifically women participating in esports and in a competitive way. Like, we're not just saying, oh, look at, like in the Game Awards on occasion, look at how games are being also been made by women. No. Actually participating, actually competing between people in the game industry can do. How can there be this collaboration? Because like we have been describing, it was very smart to think about the MENA region, because fortunately there's a common culture. It is naturally a bigger, more interesting market. In the same sense, I noticed that on occasion we would benefit in the game industry by thinking about the Latino market and the companies that are within. In contrast with so many even content creators who on occasion will say, no, I will only cover this and that's it. Everyone can do naturally if they want to only do this. But in this sense, what would you say to other content creators, to other game companies? Is there something in particular that they should pay attention to as the event comes closer in December?
Well, yeah, just to pay attention of what is being said, and create their own opinions, about it, and create their own content about it, right? One of the things that we are also very open about it is that, hey, we are not going to tell you what to say, okay? You can say whatever you want, and we will just demonstrate it with our actions, and we will demonstrate it with the event, and we will demonstrate it with the quality of the content that we create within the company, and make your own conclusions. If you agree with it, that's really nice. And we know that there's going to be people that don't agree with it. That's fine with us as well, right? Everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but we are certain that an event of this type of event can only bring positive things to the industry, and can only bring positive outcomes throughout throughout these months of preparation and during the actual live event that is going to be happening. Now, for anyone that is interested in participating with us in some way, in a volunteer way, or doing something specific, they're more than welcome to reach out to us and start talking with us in any way.
Awesome. So with this, we start wrapping up. So it is very exciting to hear that Latino Game Changers, such as Sultan and Nestor, they are bringing together, curiously, the MENA region and the Latino market, because we have some common challenges, but also our culture is so similar. And we didn't even get to talk about our common language. So some of you may know, but Spanish actually borrows so many of our words from Arabic. So just like it has been magical, at least in my case, to discover this when I got the chance to go to Toledo in Spain, to the Arab World Institute in Paris, I have the impression that so many players will discover like a cousin, like a lost cousin in your event that is coming here in Mexico City with GirlGamer. So check out the show notes where you can learn more about Tuwaiq and also about their event this December in Mexico City. Thank you again, Sultan and Nestor, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.